you. I'm very excited to welcome to the stage Jun Zhang, who will be doing our keynote talk tonight, Quantum versus Blockchain, Existential Threats for Extremists.
Hello everyone, does it sound clear enough? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So my name is Trenton, and I'm happy to be here to be your keynote speaker today. And we'll be talking about quantum versus blockchain. So a little bit about me first. So I also go by live in the community, and that's my GitHub profile page and my anime avatar. And I am myself a full stack blockchain developer. It should be white, but it's not. I hope you can see it clearly, right? Okay. The later pages should be added at this. So I build DeFi tools, I build protocols, and I work on multiple chains blockchains. They are actually very different in terms of architecture. But I build infrastructures for chains too, and I was a former member of the developer relationship team for the CKB. And right now, I build community funding projects, and I also am a community member, of course, and I support all the projects here. So if you want to work something, follow my page. So I would like to begin with the takeaways I prepared for you today. And the first one is, what is quantum computing and why it matters? And the second is how to properly understand the risk from quantum computing. And the third one is how the industry, the blockchain industry, is working to address this and how much they have done. And finally, the hidden agenda I'll try to tell you today is explain how CKB is flexible with regards to quantum resistance and even more. So today I'll try to explain all of this at the level of just a blockchain enthusiast. So just barely enough to convince your friends and family that you'll be reading at least something that is serious on this. So let's begin with some bigger names. Ethereum, they are already acting. That's the news from last month. So Ethereum launches a 2 million quantum defense team as threat timelines accelerates from quantum computing. And also another big name, Coinbase, they launched this expert board to assess the quantum computing threats to crypto, and that's also a news from last month too. So big names are already moving, and so has everyone. But what's special about quantum computing? And I'd like to start with comparing with the traditional computing. And if you know a little bit about the history of traditional computing, traditional computing went through its evolution by using more efficient and scalable ways in terms of both times and space and cost to store and compute things. So in the very beginning, we have punch cards, we have vacuum tubes, we have transistors, and eventually nowadays modern CPUs, that is integrated circuits. But all of them, they work in binaries, which means they do everything in 0 and 1s, and that's very typical for a circuit. But the special thing about an evolutionary thing about quantum computer is that it uses qubits. But what's special about qubits? It can represent 1 and 0, like before, but it can also represent a probabilistic growth. And qubit is really mind-boggling. So I will try to explain that in two funny stories. And the first one, you may have already heard of the story of Schrodinger's cat. Anybody knows that? Okay. So that's called superposition in the serious term in quantum physics. So it means that in quantum physics, a state can be both yes or no at the same time. It's a little bit difficult to understand, but it will be like that until you open the box and observe it. But there's another story called the quantum socks that might be a little bit less heard of. So suppose you bought a pair of socks, but only packed one of them in your suitcase and you travel to the other side of the world. And you don't know which one you actually take and which one you actually left at home. But as soon as you open your suitcase and realize that you brought the left sock, you immediately know that the one you left at home is the right one, right? And it's faster, it's immediately faster than light speed because there's two socks, just like two quantums, they're entangled. And that's so special about quantum computing. And this makes something very special happen. So these are very funny stories, but why quantum computer is different? The answer is that it's a silver bullet to ECC, which is the ecliptic curve cryptography. What is it? What is it? It's the most popular asymmetric cryptography nowadays. Like probably everything you're using now might be using ECC. And it's the ultimate source of trust in not just blockchain, but everything digital. So essentially, asymmetric cryptography is a safeguarding trust through asymmetric mathematical problems. There are easier ones like RSAs, and probably that's running on your router. And the ECC is the most popular ones nowadays. I will try to explain it with some real-life examples in blockchain. I hope everybody will have that experience. So when you create wallet, you get a randomly generated mnemonics first, right? And then you must keep it very absolutely secret to yourselves. And then you will suddenly find that your wallet address is already available, and that's the public key, and it's public to the whole world. And you often forget it, and you have to copy paste every time you use the wallet. But how do you verify, or how to program verify that you are you? That's where the asymmetric cryptography kicks in. So it's asymmetrically easy to derive a public key or generate a signature for any content if you have the private key. And it's also very easy for people to verify a signature if you have the public key and a signature and the content you sign on it. But it's very difficult to do the other way around. And hashing is also another way to use asymmetric cryptography. And the best example is transaction hash. So it's very easy to generate and verify a fixed length hash for a transaction, even if it's a very big one. But it's very difficult to forge the same transaction, the same hash with a different transaction. Or it's very difficult for you to get the original content just by the hash. And that's why it's asymmetrical. And that's true for all the main blockchains and all the blockchains. So asymmetric cryptography is the backbone of everything digital that requires security now. And particularly even more so for blockchains, including like Bitcoin, they use ECSA. And that's the first one is the ECC they use. And the second one is the hashing function they use. And Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot, Cardano. But how do we properly understand the risk today? So in very short words, quantum computing now is already theoretically valid and all the algorithms are already ready. But what's keeping us here still today is the engineering. The engineering of quantum computer itself is not ready, but it's very imminent, especially considering the help of AI right now. And we are already seeing promising prototypes and proof of concepts, but how imminent it is. So it's a rough and optimistic guess that it should be still low chance by 2030, but it's very likely by 2040. And if you read the post today on LinkedIn, some people even have more pessimistic estimation of it. So we might want to dive a little bit to the details. So we say algorithms are ready. What do we have? We actually have two. And the first one is called Shor's algorithm. It can efficiently break the mathematical problems behind these blockchain signature schemes, so making it a primary quantum threat to private keys, so they can get your private keys. And the second one is Browser algorithms. It speeds up the brute force searches and reducing security margins, which poses a possible but lesser risk to hashing functions. Those sounds very technical, so I prepared a more intuitive question here. So what would happen if it becomes real tomorrow? So the first one is that the private keys are no longer private, so your assets are no longer yours. And the second one is real is no longer real, so you can no longer prove that you are you, right? And the third one is a little bit difficult to understand, but encrypted are no longer encrypted. So if I can harvest some of your encrypted data, even though I cannot read it, but I already got it either from a hacked server or just from blockchain because it's public, I can decrypt it later with the chain and you cannot do anything about it. And as I mentioned, it will not just kill the blockchain, but everything in digital. Sounds a little bit terrifying. And we dive a little into the details. We have hashing, signatures, and encryptions, and those are the three most important things that we use in cryptography and software today. So signatures. So when we do signatures, we're actually generating a fixed length signature from a randomly sized content. So we call it message or payload, and with a very specific hash function but with private keys. So we can calculate a target public key with a signature against the message or payload. And if the target public key hits the actual public key that it claims to be, we can mathematically confirm that the signature was actually signed by the matching private key. We don't need to know the private key itself, but we know it's somebody who owns the private key. But quantum computer can actually forge this signature, which can get you the same target public key and pretend to be you. It can also guess the whole private key from just the hash if they have enough data of the clues of the data. And the second thing is hashing. So when we do hashing, we're actually generating a fixed length digest from a randomly sized content with a specific hashing function, but we do not need to have the private key or public key involved here. And what we want to do with hashing is that we try to verify that we have the same context, we have the same hash. So it's easy to store, easy to transfer, easy to verify, because you do not need to review, you have the whole thing. You just need to show them that you have the hash and it's the same hash as they generated. But quantum computer can forge the content and get the same hash by just giving in some very small and random noise data slightly and eventually get to the same hash as you do. And it can also guesses the secret content from just the hash if they have other clues of the data too. So they don't really need to have the whole thing. They just need to have some clues of it, the structure of it. And the last thing is encryption. So our messages are all already encrypted in the first place. But with encryption, the original data, the things we wrote, they are encrypted with the private key and then gets transmitted to the server and the other end. And the other end, they will decrypt the transmitted data with the same private key. And that's the basis of the encrypted and protected communication. A quantum computer can actually guess the secret key based on encrypted data. And there's no way to stop further damage, even if only the encrypted data are leaked. And it's very common today. And a lot of software companies, they leak data, even though it's encrypted now and safe now, but in the future, it will be decrypted. So the real danger here is actually what you encrypted is usually containing some more sensitive information and that could be anything, right? But fortunately, or hopefully, it won't happen tomorrow. And the more reassuring news is that we have already been able and built the new post-quantum cryptography with new mathematical problems that even quantum computers today cannot, in the future, cannot solve efficiently. And they are already usable with typical computers nowadays. And we have more than one. So basically, for any traditional software companies, they can just switch the encryption part, and then it would just be quantum safe. But it's a little bit trickier for blockchain because it's decentralized. And of course, there are also kinds of solutions to do that because there are newcomers that were born quantum resistant. So quantum resistant ledger, which is very similar to Bitcoin, but quantum resistant and also self-frame. But the bigger issue is that for existing layer ones, like big names, although they are already implementing PQC or taking steps towards researching viable roadmaps, it could take years and at substantial cost, even if they have already spent years and substantial cost on it. But what are the challenges for them? So the first one, many patchwork solutions are not viable because often they have a default algorithms to encrypt everything. And then if you want to change that, you need to have protocol change inevitably. And secondly, in the practical part of it, it requires a larger signature size in comparison to ECC. And it will require more computing power, so higher gas. And the storage costs will make the implementation very impractical. And also, you need to have network-wide agreement, and it can be contentious in terms of like what algorithms or what implementation you want to use or the priority of it. But here we come. We have the CKB. So CKB here, I want to proudly present to you Nervo CKB. So what is Nervo CKB? So to describe CKB in short, you can imagine it as a Bitcoin with real smart contracts. It's launched in 2019. It's a layer one, and it scales with upper layers too, just like Lightning. and it has the similar principles as Bitcoin. We are all both proof of work. We use UTXO, and it's sustainable, and it's also open source, permissionless. But what's so special about CKB? If you only have one answer, that would be RISC-V. So what is RISC-V architecture? So in short, we can understand it as a VM based on real computer architecture. So essentially speaking, you can run almost native code on RISC-V machine on the blockchain. So broadly speaking, it could be comparable to Docker versus traditional virtual machines. So therefore, you can build and run any kind of cryptography you like, including post-quantum ones, in very beginning. And with our cell model, it allows you to pick or switch the lock script that protects your assets or cells anytime. And no protocol change is required thanks to the UTXO architecture. But how good are we? So we have the best testimony from the great Vitalik, who wants to follow CKB, but just kidding here, and find out a little bit, if necessary, but challenging too. So let me proudly read it. He wants to replace the EVM with RISC-V as the virtual machine language that smart contracts are written in. And the one precedent for this is the Nerval CKB VM, which is basically just RISC-V.
That's really,
Sorry?
that's really smart.
Yeah, that's the post. You can find it online. Yeah. So let's go back to quantum resistance. And up to today, we have already implemented the NIST approved Sphinx algorithm, which is one of the typical and popular ones. And with that algorithms, and since it's just a lock script, it's not like have to be running in a very specific program. You can use it anytime. So any cells or assets, you can use the same Sphinx lock, no matter new or old, right now. And CKB can adopt to future post-quantum cryptography in the same way too. You just build it, deploy it, and everybody can use it. And for better experience, the community has already funded and released a quantum purse. It's already available on the mainnet. It's built on CKB. It's the first desktop wallet based on Sphinx PQC. So as far as I know, and it runs its own light client, which means that you don't really need to rely on any server. You don't need to rely on any RPC code. Just runs in your browser. And it's already externally audited, so you can use it right now if you look for it. And in the upcoming schedule, we try to build quantum resistant hardware wallet with it as well. And it's for the key management too. So if you scan it, you see the details about it. And it's open source. So that's pretty much everything I have today. And if I have enough time, I'll share some personal thoughts. So CKP people have been always very genuinely proud of the architecture and the vision we have in the first place and the technical evolution that we've been achieving, which is the origin of our wonderful community-driven blockchain culture. So if you're thinking about building infrastructures or services that you want to have the most ownership and efficiency, especially newcomers transitioning from the traditional sectors of software industry, either organizations, companies, or independent developers, you won't regret choosing CKB, and that's my genuine thought. So that's everything I have today. You can scan for Nervals Talk, our forum, Nervals Talk, our official site, Nervals Nation, our fan site, and Quantum Purse if you're interested in just the actual product of it. And that's everything I have today.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, hello. Okay, yes, thank you. So, because we are running a little bit late, I'm going to go ahead and just introduce the fireside chant. So, first off, we have Dr. Christina, if you want to come up. We also have Paul Engesbar, if you want to come up. And then dialing in from the Midlands, we've got JB Benjamin. Hi, JB.
Hey.
Do you guys want to introduce yourself?
Hi, oops, can you hear me? Hello. Houston, we have a problem. Hopefully not. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Christina Yan Zhang, CEO from the Metaverse Institute. I also co-chair a task group at the United Nations looking at setting up international standards using AI, digital twin, Web3, quantum, are the technology to create what we call a people-centered, family-friendly digital future. So very honored to be here with all of you talking about this exciting topic.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Bark. I previously worked at Artax. I was one of their early employees. So I've worked in the space for probably about 8 years now. Last summer, I left Artax to start my own company, and I've since built a wallet that uses post-quantum cryptography on Ethereum, and it can be run on any EVM-based chain.
And hi, I'm JB. I created the world's first consumer available post-quantum end-to-end encrypted messenger box messenger with now over 400,000 users, completely organic and built independently, and my specialization is advanced cryptography.
That sounds really cool. Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I'm not going to charge you for that. So are you ready for some exciting and maybe controversial questions about quantum and crypto? Wonderful. Okay, so my first question is, as our amazing keynote speaker has mentioned, that we are probably still another 10, 15 years away from, like quantum really pose a very serious, threat to cryptography, especially around like crypto. I'm particularly interested in another more immediate threat everyone has probably experienced in the past 2 weeks or so. If you're looking at what happens at stock markets, we all know what happens, right? Agentic AI is creating a little bit like a panic sales of SaaS-based software shares. And we already see like more than $2 trillion wipe out from the stock market. So, and also another thing you probably see, it's a headline news yesterday. The guy who created this amazing agentic AI, if I remember the name correctly, is
OpenClaw.
OpenClaw, was headhunted by OpenAI because he literally break a record and was able to develop a software using agentic AI and have more than 1.5 million agents created and over 150 GitHub stars in like a week, which is completely bad. So my question is, actually one of the biggest threats in cryptography and potentially cybersecurity is using generative AI to identify all the loopholes in our key. So my question to all of you is, are we targeting a little bit too long term so that we are not really focusing on the immediate threat posed by agentic AI? Paul, can I start with you, perhaps?
Well, for one thing, I think with quantum computing, it's a bit of an unknown when it will become an issue. So it's you have to think of it as like a risk-based approach. Whether you think it's going to happen in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you're effectively playing chicken based on that. But the other thing I would say is that with AI, large language models, which is what most AI is, that when people talk about AI, it's not very creative. It's really just a very fancy text generation model. So it's only able to generate code based on what's available out there. So it won't necessarily solve cryptography unless someone else has already done that and published it out in the on the web somewhere. So I wouldn't necessarily say there's a big risk there. Like we all know that ChatGPT, if you remember, famously failed to count how many R's was in strawberry. So I'm not too concerned. I mean, it could become a problem soon once AI is able to move past the ability to actually do math. But I think there's some time from that, and there's better targets anyhow, because if anyone's aware, the Clay Institute had the Millennial Prize set out in 2000, which these are all puzzles and problems that have been unsolved for hundreds of years, and there's $1 million prize for each one that's solved. So, I mean, if AI was able to solve math like that, I think they would focus on that first, anyhow.
I think I'm going to challenge you, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, and you might remember there is a very famous case where some hackers from North Korea basically had a major hack into a large number of like Bitcoin coins. And so I also remember that since like generative AI become a thing in 2022, what happened is worldwide cybersecurity risk using deepfake generated like all kinds of threats actually grew from 500,000 in 1 year to 8 million last year. So if it's going to be a major thing for institutional adoptions at scale for Web3, I don't see criminals not targeting this kind of area.
But again, it needs to be able to solve the math to be able to do to get to that point of ability to attack. I just don't see the technology being there just now. It's not creative enough. I mean, I think what you've described is really more of a large scale social engineering, which is entirely capable now, and it's going to happen. It already happens, and AI is going to make social engineering much worse. But that just points to the weakest link, which is people, not the code.
That's what I'm trying to say, because a lot of the deepfake related actually attack is using people who look like you and then try to trick people who are related to you to actually give the key out.
Right.
And I think that's a human in the loop kind of like risk we need to tackle from an AI perspective, perhaps.
True. Yeah. No, that absolutely I can agree with is something that should be a concern for everyone. Getting around that, I mean, it would be difficult to say how it can be done, other than to just pick up better cybersecurity practices. For example, don't necessarily trust what's on the video. For people that are interviewing and meeting people online, one trick is, excuse me, to ask them to put up their hand, touch their head. There's all sorts of little tricks just to catch out the AI, because it isn't quite perfect yet. It is still a bit of a new space, I would think.
Working in progress, basically. As you said, there's still a bit of a work in progress right now.
Yeah, exactly.
JB, can I bring you in here, perhaps? What's your view?
Right, okay. I'm itching to that on this. Okay, so one thing I'd like to talk about, first of all, is open core, because this actually segues very nicely to the point I was going to make next, which is the biggest problem we have right now is insecurity in design. Right? You mentioned all the applications being developed. That's probably not going to be our biggest threat. Open core is an example of this. People are being encouraged to create agentic systems seamlessly, which are basically just coded JSON files with auto-scripted functions, and then connect them to their WhatsApp and Telegram systems, thereby giving these agentic AIs access to all of these users' personal communications. Now, great for business, not so great for personal users. Is OpenClaw end-to-end encrypted? Nope. Does OpenClaw have any security guardrails? Nope. Can you actually get an agentic AI to reveal the API key of another agent on OpenClaw? Yes. And this has just been bought for billions by OpenAI. So when you're looking at the threats to keys, I think our biggest problem really is the software. So quantum supercomputing will pose a threat. And the biggest threat that quantum supercomputing will pose to us right here and now is theft for future decryption. That's its present threat. It's one which is being exploited by governments all around the world already. Have no fear. But the immediate threat to us as individual users is the software we're using. Can it be trusted? What's its provenance? Different developers give a single damn about any form of security in a shape or form. So, yeah, I agree with you, Paul, that AI is not at the stage yet of creative reasoning and problem solving. Most definitely it's not. But it is definitely capable of rapid at scale gross computational capability. In terms of creative problem solving, I agree with Paul on this one. It just isn't there yet. So like those people who say that AI is going to sack all the coders, if you've used AI to code, you will know. No, it's not. It's nowhere near that capability yet. First year junior on a good day, you know?
That's actually really relieving. Thank you so much. I feel like my wallet is much secure now. Thank you. And touch your face to show you're actually not an AI.
No AI speaks as well as I do.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah, we love it. Okay, that's wonderful. And my next question is actually, currently all the development about quantum is driven by very big tech giants. They're spending billions and billions of US dollars doing that, especially like AWS, Microsoft, Google, etc. And they control more than 66% of the global cloud market. And they are already deploying one-click NIST standardized post-quantum cryptography module. So my question is, are we just moving crypto from the sovereign front desk into the digital basements of the corporations we were trying to escape?
Yes. Sorry, I just thought it was pretty obvious.
Yeah, I know, but so my question is, if the infrastructure of all this kind of quantum safe, oops, that sounds a little bit surreal. Houston, we definitely have a problem. Hopefully not. So my question is, if the infrastructure we have to move into to keep our crypto wallets safe are more centralized, controlled by big corporations, should we be worried that actually the decentralization nature of crypto is going to be removed as a result? What's your view, Paul?
I would argue that most innovation, especially at a development level, doesn't occur with the large corporations. They're not really incentivized to do that because they want to deliver value to their clientele. They're more likely to actually just purchase the companies that do all the innovation. Now, quantum computing itself may be a little different, but even then, they likely purchase the companies that were developing that in the first place. And a lot of the people that they brought on board for that are the scientists that did the work initially under presumably not NIH grants, but similar grants. So I don't think there's necessarily a risk because they're, again, like I said, they're not necessarily incentivized to do that sort of work. They're not going to want to run all the nodes. There's value within decentralization itself. Quantum computing, on the other hand, that's something that's a different ballpark in a sense. Because when it comes to running a quantum computer, it's only going to be the large companies that do this. You're not going to have a desktop that runs quantum like a qubit or anything like that. For your regular, like sending emails, going on the web, you don't need a quantum computer. That would be like using a Ferrari to tow a boat. I mean, you're just not. It's a waste of resources.
That makes sense. JD, what about you?
Yeah, I would actually tend to agree. Actually, yeah, when we look at quantum supercomputing, it's state-level actors and militaries predominantly investing in, particularly the military. And in terms of there being innovation from there, not really, no, unless it's innovation in more versatile ways to identify, capture, and kill people, which is one of the things that military quantum supercomputers are actually being used for in terms of that kind of thing. In terms of usefulness, useful creativity, yeah. Paul, again, absolutely correct. The bigger mega corporations just go out there, sniff out the patents, and then just buy up whoever's built them, basically. And then they normally kind of co-opt that innovator who used to be kind of a good person into being another member of the consumer capitalist machine, unfortunately. And we see it everywhere. I have some of my peers who have actually massively sold out and made millions. I'm not one of those. Yeah, there are days I do regret that and second guess myself. Don't get it twisted. But since the Epstein files have come out, I'm really glad I didn't go to any violent parties. I'm glad I decided this.
I'm very much at impress.com. I think every single one of us should follow your great moral standard, and then our life will be so much better.
Just don't go to rich people's parties. That's the easy way to deal with it.
I can see that we have the same agreement here. Okay, my next question is actually going to be a little bit more exciting. Because you know there is some exciting developments in New York Stock Exchange recently, and they are launching a 24/7 tokenization platform to facilitate, trades. And what really intrigued me is basically their trading volume is massive. Their daily trading volume is about 200 billion US dollars. Roughly, that will be like 4 or 5 times the daily trading volume of Bitcoin. And they are building this massive tokenization platform with backing from BNY, which is the world's largest custodian bank of 57 trillion US dollars under custody, as well as the Citibank. And everything is done within the support of the US government, the Genius Act, as some of you have heard about. So my question here is, if they are building this kind of crypto agility, into the platform to swap, encryption algorithm, the moment a quantum threat is detected, isn't it that the New York Stock Exchange essentially will be in a position to be able to copy the efficiency of our very amazing blockchain technology, while stripping away its core value of decentralization? Again, I'm worried. Maybe I'm worried too much.
I've always thought that decentralization was the value in blockchain and with Ethereum. And this is what Vitalik just tweeted to just the other week, was the fact that layer twos were no longer offering the value that they should. They weren't reaching the stage 2 that was expected, the decentralization. And so instead of scaling Ethereum, they're just simply adjacent to it and sort of piggybacking on it. So that's the same thing with the New York Stock Exchange, with what they've built. It's fine, it's blockchain technology, but it's not decentralized. It doesn't have that value. You're essentially putting your trust into the New York Stock Exchange, that they're able to run this blockchain in a trustful way, where they won't overwrite any transactions, they won't censor people from it. And that's where the value of Ethereum is, and you're never going to lose that.
JB, what do you say? You don't fall asleep, right?
No, I'm actually, I don't know if you can hear me. There I am, sorry. My router decided to reset itself after I mentioned a certain list. So I lost any of that question. I just, I took a picture and shared it in the group chat. What the hell? So unfortunately, I didn't hear any of that question whatsoever. Sorry.
That's fine. So let me just rephrase it in another way. If New York Stock Exchange has the institutional power to pause the chain and force a rekeying to stop a quantum attack, haven't we just traded the theoretical risk of a mathematical break for the absolute certainty of states and bank control?
Absolutely, no question. Yeah, I mean, that's always been the case. If we look at blockchain and we look at blockchain as a community and a culture, we see that there have been massively well-funded entities that have massively pushed ignorant users towards using exchanges and custodial wallets and believing that they'll be safe. All the time ignoring the fact that if you check the terms and conditions, they have the same T's and C's as most banks, which is that if they want to, they can keep your assets, particularly at a time of financial instability or bankruptcy. Additionally, there's no financial insurance associated with any of these blockchains or crypto exchanges such as Coinbase and others, which means if you lose your money or, well, God forbid, Binance or Coinbase decide they're going to keep your money or your tokens or your keys, there is literally nothing you can do about it. So yes, we have swapped one threat for another. And I would say the threat of the big corporations re-centralizing our assets is something we need to look very carefully about. Look at the recent PR changes that are being attempted to be made to Bitcoin at this time. Infrastructural changes to Bitcoin, which would allow them to have the authority to revoke historical transactions, ladies and gentlemen. That's a problem. You have to really question who these developers are working for at this point when they're starting to make the infrastructural decisions like that. Maybe the CIA gave them a little brown briefcase. Who knows?
Sounds like Catch Me If You Can.
It's more of a
just
brown
about-
bag, not a suitcase. It's more of a brown bag.
That's the one. It's got swag written over it. So you can throw it over your shoulder and get running.
I think we should do a show together on TV. It probably will become very popular. What do you think?
Oh hell yeah, I'm down for that all day long. Free publicity, baby.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind, but my next question is actually follow up directly on what you have just mentioned. If I can give you some figures here. So according to Coinbase, that we are supposed to embrace this crypto agility and more of our life savings to hybrid PQC wallets. And but there are actually 6.15 trillion US dollars global IT spending this year, and 75% of inclusion now targeting identity, credential, rather than just codes. So if 25% of all Bitcoins, roughly about 4 million of them, are currently already sitting in quantum exposed legacy address, don't you think like some people might want to just put their keys in slightly more safe environment like the New York Stock Exchange, new facilities? What do you think?
No, I would think they'd be better off keeping their keys on a USB stick and having it surgically inserted into their body. Seriously, no. If you look into my history, I have an antipathy to centralized systems. And the reason why I built my own messaging platform in 2017, so I got fed up of being advertised that every time I spoke to somebody on WhatsApp about anything vaguely marketable. So I decided to put my own messenger where there's no ads retargeting because ads aren't used, period. There is also the other problem, which we have managed to avoid throughout most of this discussion, which is geopolitics. Geopolitics affects this hugely. How can you trust your assets in a place where there is certain types of political instability going on at the moment, and you have governments who have shown an inclination to ignore all international laws, especially when it comes to keeping the deals? So how can we trust these very same people to give us our money back or our tokens back if we demand them? We can't. Why do you think in Europe? Why do you think in Europe all the European countries are clawing their gold out of US gold reserves right now?
Yeah, and I take it a step further and say even SWIFT is a risk because they use the OPAC sanctions list, which right now includes the whatchamacallit, the International Criminal Court. So it's completely political now what's happening in terms of sanctions. And so you have legal bodies recognized in Switzerland that can't use SWIFT right now.
That's really shocking.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's okay because BRICS countries are coming up with an alternative. Never fear. It's going to be solved. And it's gold backed. Yes! Real gold as an actual value. Yay. Not just bits of paper.
Oh, but the thing is, by then, I think you also have to consider that eventually by that time, let's say when Trump goes or anything like that, okay? By that time, you would not know, and especially with other autocratic regimes coming up on the radar nowadays, is that how actually you know that that's going to be the case, basically. Of course, I think JB is right about that the BRICS countries are going to be backing the currencies with gold, but the way gold is right now going, it's so completely spiking right now that in some countries they've started to use silver. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, apparently Pandora has switched to using
And that was
because silver prices are so high.
Well, don't forget, we also actually saw for the first time ever this year, we actually saw real world mineral prices impacted by virtual commodity. The trigger of the fall of gold and silver prices, which we experienced a few weeks ago, was down to Bitcoin manipulation, because so many of the different institutions, these centralized institutions, are holding on to vast amounts of crypto and then using not so vast amounts of gold to backstop them.
But just to bring it back to the legacy addresses, anyone that has a legacy address, if they're not moving their tokens or their Bitcoin over now, they need to do it. It's without question. And there is talk already within Bitcoin of actually enforcing a fork at some point to effectively shut off the legacy addresses, because obviously Satoshi's address is legacy, and that's a huge percentage.
He has suggested basically a white hat program and actually securing all of the legacy wallets, putting them into the central repository.
That's a matter of timing, right? Because anyone that does like if they manage to recover that, they just need to be quicker than any attackers, versus just completely shutting them out.
I think David Sean is suggesting something along the lines of securing the secret.
Yeah. Oh,
No one can hear. Do you guys want to go to Q&A now, Christina?
I think we've got one last question. Yeah, we can go to Q&A. See, when we enjoy something like this, time flies really. But I got one last killer questions. I hope you don't mind. So it's a little bit deep. In an interview with the Financial Times published on February 12th, 2026, Microsoft AI CEO Mustafa Suleyman predicted that virtually all white-collar jobs, from legal work to accounting to project management, will be fully automated within the next 12 to 18 months. So if AI agents are about to replace the very developers, lawyers, project managers responsible for crypto's quantum migration, so are we facing a talent vacuum that makes decentralized defense impossible? Paul.
arguably it'd be easier to replace the executives with AI than some of the middle management. But again, I don't necessarily think artificial intelligence is there yet. And I think there's a misconception that where people talk about artificial general intelligence, where in a sense is sentience in an artificial manner. But we still don't understand natural intelligence. So how can we claim to think artificial intelligence will even get to that level in the next couple of years? I think it's wishful thinking, but they because they're a publicly traded company, they have to be enthusiastic. They have to push that narrative. What's more likely going to happen? A lot of junior and entry level positions are disappearing, but it'd be more. I think ideally you're going to find that the developers will use AI in like a paired programming format rather than relying on AI to do all the coding itself. Because even if you leave AI to do the coding, it's going to still make mistakes. It still hallucinates. So you're going to have to, even if you replace all the developers, you're going to need a strong QA just to make sure that it's actually working. And you can't necessarily trust AI to do QA and development. I mean, you can try, but you're just taking a risk there.
Wonderful. JP, what about you?
Oh yeah, I completely agree. This is a massive AI bubble that's just being inflated by NVIDIA and all that big fat cats, and they'll say anything they can to keep you guys fine. There's a reality, and the reality is we actually have more AI processing compute capacity in this world right now than we actually have use for. But there is a need to keep building data centers at an exponential rate, because without building data centers, there is no value to these investments in NVIDIA, Oracle, and all these other companies. But the reality is utility is actually dropping off, it's particularly amongst Gen Z. If you actually look at the polls tracking young people's utility of AI, they are rebelling against it. So yes, AI is going to replace jobs, but the people whose jobs are really threatened by AI, there is only one name for it: lawyers. Management. Everybody in management is screwed, basically. Yes, finally. I mean, I've got to be honest. AI is at the moment at the space at the capability of founder. So yeah, we are actually working on replacing me with an AI, by the way, just so you're aware. A full digital twin trained on all of my data sets, which is all of my emails and all my messages. That is definitely coming. And not being funny, as a civilization, I do feel confident that we could actually hand over a lot of governance in our own civil society to AI far more reliably than we do humans, and with far less scope for corruption as well.
I think on that happy note, we should open up for Q&A. Could we have maybe any hands up? And if you can very briefly introduce yourself, your name, your organization, and your question will be very much appreciated. Anyone, hands up?
You just got here. I'm not giving you the mic. You've missed the whole talk, so no. Anyone else have a question?
Don't be shy, life is short. Over here,
Anyone?
gentlemen.
It's just about Satoshi's wallet.
Alex, I can hear you.
Do you think that it is a good idea to overwrite or fork Bitcoin, or whether that actually would be a good honeypot for quantum development?
Oh,
It's a race condition as to who actually gets that private key first. But I don't think most people would actually support locking it, because you're reducing the supply of Bitcoin, which traditionally, and Bitcoin was built around having a fixed supply. So by reducing it, anyone else holding Bitcoin should benefit ideally. Yeah, effectively burn it.
Doesn't it undermine?
To make something adoptable and consumer friendly. This is a reality. I faced this myself working in post-quantum encrypted messaging. Some things are super secure, but they're just too damaging, they're difficult to use and adopt. So I guess, yes, at some point, the most realistic option of Bitcoin probably would be a fork, but the problem then lies in the problems of the people doing and their trustworthiness and their connections to VCs and who is paying their bills at the time. Because we already know this does have a bearing on whether or not that technology can be trusted or not, especially over time.
thank you. Anybody else? Hands up. I see a gentleman over there.
You missed the
I see there is a lady here in pink.
Hi everyone, my name is Alina. Basically, I was very shocked and listened to JB saying AI will replace management. It's really shocking. Like 10 minutes ago, he was saying, oh, AI only do junior job and there's no risks and will be to the wallet. But now at the end, he's saying will replace the management, because that's how I see AI. I think human will be the brain of AI eventually. So we are the leaders of AI. We are basically AI just the tools. It's like a computer. We're using them to deliver all the jobs. So I don't say the trend AI is matching human. It's human are leaders and the brain of AI. So I don't understand. I really want to GP give us like some explaining, because as a CEO and the founder of this very important company, like you have to understand, no matter where you're from, but as a leader of AI, of like the technology company, our mission is like make sure we can control AI, we can lead AI, we can manage AI, not be replaced by AI. Yeah, that's my point. JB, what do you? JB, over to you.
I think the fact that I said that AIs are barely at the level of a junior coder and that they can replace management tells you what I think of management largely. Most managers are mostly incompetent people who manage to slide their way into their jobs, especially if you go higher up and the bigger the corporation gets.
I would actually add to that as well. Sorry about.
Yeah, no, go for it.
AI, like the models out there are trained on what's publicly available in the domain. So when it comes to coding, a lot of the coding that's on the web is not necessarily efficient or good or even works. But when it comes to management decisions, it tends to be the same thing for every company. So it's a lot easier to train to make those simple decisions. And I mean, I might be getting a lot of trouble for saying this.
You're not.
There's a lot more public record of the decisions that are made at management that are available to train against versus good code. And you don't necessarily require creativity to manage a company. I mean, I'm sure it helps, but it's not a requirement versus writing code that is innovative.
I don't agree with you. I really don't.
Last question.
I've got a question for JB. I'm Lee from the Nervous Foundation. It's quite clear that AI is basically going to reduce and accelerate the bell curve theory for the middle class and all of that. And you say that the young ones are rebelling against it, but are they the new Luddites?
Well, you think me having 4 kids and being a technologist that my kids would be in tech? No, they're bloody not. They're into art and music and a bunch of hippies. I would say there is almost a Luddite style reaction happening. Because don't forget, this generation, what have they experienced? They've experienced just constant technological advance on technological advance, but then they have not experienced any benefit largely for these technological advances. First of all is the crypto bubble. Now we're in the AI bubble. We were in the AI bubble, now in the agentic AI bubble. And then there's going to be some other new flim-flam space rockets and Elon Musk actually farting into space or something. Whichever way you cut it, there'll be something which doesn't give a lot of benefits to everybody at scale, particularly young people. And young people in this modern society feel largely disenfranchised and not part of it. And a lot of that is to do with COVID, how people were excluded and kept shut in and lost their people skills over time. And then this has been exacerbated by what? The advent of conversational AIs that have acted almost like mothers, fathers, and surrogate helpers to those of us who are determined to get our AI psychosis in nice and early. You know? So, yeah, AI is going to be, Pandora's box is open now for whatever we do with it. The AI is creative. The AI is starting to do its own things. And the AI is, in some labs, self-evolving into gods only know whatever it will be in the future. And eventually AI will write itself. It's hidden. We've got to learn to live with it. I would not say that we're in control of AI, to be honest. No. If you actually look deep into what's happening in the world around us, you can see there is evidence of rogue AIs out there. That's a conversation for a whole other time.
To be continued. Is that how we say ending?
On that very positive, optimistic note. Well, let's give a big round of applause to our fireside chat. Thank you guys all so much for coming. We've got the space until 9:30, so there's food and drinks.